formula, which involves the assessed value minus any exemptions that may be applied, times your millage rate, and that gives you your taxes due. Going through a simple example using both a homesteaded property and a non-homesteaded property, so folks can see what that difference, how that difference works out. Homesteaded property with a fair market value of $225,000. Fair market value would be, again, as stated in the previous note, that 225 times the 40% would give you an assessed value of $90,000. Homestead exemption for a standard L1 basic homestead exemption is $15,000. It would leave you with a taxable value of $75,000 times your millage rate of 12.733 would leave you $954.98 in county taxes. And again, I'm stressing county taxes. This is not the overall full millage rate. Again, based on the standard L1 exemption. For a non-homesteaded property, same property value, same fair market value. Once again, same assessed value to $90,000. Since they do not have a homestead, there would not be that deduction for your $15,000 of homestead. So your taxes would be calculated based on the $90,000 times your 12.733 millage rate, which would give you a county tax of $1,145.97. Difference of roughly $190.99. So we always tell people, your homestead, for your basic homestead, is ballpark worth about $200. So again, it's certainly every little bit helps. Want to give another example, which is germane to what we're experiencing this year. What happens to my tax bill if the property value goes up and the millage rate remains the same, which is what's being proposed so far this year? Property values, again, taking an example of a property value that increases from $200,000 to $240,000, which represents a 20% increase. It'd be your $240,000, your new fair market value times your 40% would give you a $96,000 assessed value, times your millage rate of 12.733, which would give you $1,222.37, again, for a non-homesteaded property. Increase amount of $203 on a non-homesteaded property, just based on that value of a 20% increase. We talk about this every single year, the provision as it relates here in Henry County, which is unique in that it offers a frozen provision. So those homesteaded properties that are homesteaded would not see an increase in county taxes due to the frozen exemption. And again, if the base value of the property is less than the current assessed value. The frozen exemption does not apply to school taxes, which is a key point here, that you see a little bit later on in the presentation, or improvements made to the house or additional land that's been acquired since the time of the initial homestead was approved. So again, the frozen provision. Again, this is something that's unique to Henry County. There's only a handful of counties and jurisdictions within the state that offer this type of exemption. It was enacted by local legislation back in 2004. As a lot of people may remember, back in the early 2000s, property values were increasing exponentially because of the incredible growth that Henry County was experiencing. And the board at the time felt it was necessary to do something to kind of help with those long-term citizens that were living here to help reduce their tax burden. So they enacted this provision back in 2004. It includes only the primary structure itself and residents up to 5 contiguous acres of the land. The base year value is the fair market value of your home from the year prior to filing your homestead. So if you were to file this year, today, your base year would be 2022 because it's going to apply the prior year. Exemption is automatically renewed from year to year so long as a resident continues to occupy the home as a primary residence. So if it changes ownership, then that new owner would have to come back in and apply. People often call and ask us, why do I need to come back in and renew my frozen provision? No. Once you apply and are approved for your homestead, it automatically applies and it'll set your fair market value based on that prior year's fair market value. Homeowner pays on the base year value of the county and water portions of the tax bill, even if the value increases beyond that base year. So if your initial property value in the year that you have your homestead is $200,000 for your fair market value, 10 years from then, 10 years later, it's $300,000. you would still be taxed on your county tax and your water tax at that $200,000 value. That's the simplest way to explain it for folks. And again, once again, that only applies to your county and water taxes, or millage rates rather. If the property value decreases below the base year, homeowner would pay based on the lower valuation. So if your property were to decrease from $200,000 down to $100,000, you would still pay the lower of those two numbers. You wouldn't still have to be locked in at the $200,000 number. And we saw a lot of that. Certainly when recession hit in 2008, a lot of those values went dip below what their base years were. The exemptions we have, and again, apologies for the slide, a little bit difficult to, we'll have this posted on our website as well. Just kind of runs through what all the exemptions that are offered are. Our standard county exemption, as noted earlier, is $15,000 for your standard L1. At age 62, you get into your age exemption, which offers exemptions from the school board taxes. Again, at age 62, you get an exemption, and it increases at age 65, at age 68, and at age 70, you are no longer having to pay any school taxes. And again, those exemptions apply solely to your school and water taxes only. Additional exemptions that exist are disability exemptions, veterans disabilities, and that amount this past year was $101,754. That amount changes every year. It's shown typically in the red. So we always people often call our office to find out exactly what that amount is, because the state determines that amount on an annual basis. Surviving spouse for armed conflict, surviving spouse for a peace officer or firefighter, conservation exemptions, freeport exemptions, and forest land protection exemptions, which we don't have a great deal of anymore. So where do our tax dollars go? And this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier as far as for that percentage of the millage. So as it stands right now, the 12.733 in mills, that represents 37% of the total taxes paid by county residents. The remaining of those taxes, 50% of that goes to the schools for maintenance and operations. That's 20 mills. An additional 8%, 3.62 mills, also goes to the schools to cover their school bond. The remaining 5% is to the water authority, and that's the 2 mills that they utilize for they've had in place for a number of years, and that's to pay for things such as the reservoir that's been in place for a number of years to secure our water supply here in the county. So again, people often ask, how is it broken down? And this want to give just a pictorial so people can see exactly where the percentage of the taxes go to. So prior to all that, we have to first go through this digest process. And again, this process is a collaboration between my office, the tax commissioner, the tax assessors, and the Board of Commissioners, as well as the Board of Education and the city jurisdictions. Tax assessor's office, tax commissioner's office, the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners, and the cities of Stockbridge, McDonough, Hampton, and Locust Grove. And once that's all completed, everything is submitted to the State Department of Revenue for their final review and approval. The tax digest itself is simply a listing of assessments and exemptions consisting of real and personal property, timber, mobile homes, motor vehicles, heavy-duty equipment, public utilities. The digest itself must be approved by the State Department of Revenue before any taxes can be mailed out. Bills must be received 60 days in advance of the due date. So for here in Henry County, our due date is November 16th. So bills must be received prior to September 16th. Henry County bills are milled again by September 1st to make sure we meet that deadline on a regular basis, and we've always met it. The proposed 2022 millage rates, as they stand right now, this gives just a quick graphic of what they're looking at for unincorporated Henry County residents, as well as each of the cities. And as you'll see, for unincorporated Henry County, the countywide millage rate proposed at 8.699. And a few years ago, the Board of Commissioners opted to change the format and go to a special service district, which guarantees a certain portion of the millage would be dedicated towards certain services. In this case, it's fire, police, recreation, and unincorporated other unincorporated services. And this shows that breakdown. So for the fire department, of the 12.733, 1.211 mil would go strictly to fire. 1.904 mils would go toward police services. 0.6 .01 go towards recreation, parks and recreation services, and unincorporated for those services, other services within unincorporated areas, be 0.318. That gives your total service delivery special service district millage of 4.034 here in unincorporated county, which gives you a total of, again, right here, 12.733, which as stated previously has not changed in a number of years. Looking beyond that number, you'll see the millage rates for school maintenance and operations, which is 20 mils, school bond, which is a 3.628 mils, and your water authority, which is 2 mils, which will live a total millage, again, your total taxable millage of 38.361, which again, if you go back in previous years, you'll find out that millage has not changed in well over 5 to 7 years. And also gives a further breakdown of all the other of our municipalities as well. Very few changes with the exception of McDonough's. Their city millage has gone down slightly, and the city of Hampton this year is proposing a 6.5 millage increase, non-rollback this year on theirs. That's being heard currently. This is an example bill, just kind of shows our residents a breakdown of how the fair market value adjusted, the assessed value, where the exemptions will be listed, and how they'll be listed on your bill, just to kind of give an idea of how it's broken down on your bill and what information to look for on your bill. One thing we're really proud of this year is we made a change in our tax bill this year, and I've given each one of the commissioners kind of a copy of that. In past years, I've been doing this for 3 years now. And one of the comments that often get brought up is about how can we add and give more information to our residents as it relates to taxation, the tax bills. So working with Lynn Carty, our property tax director and deputy tax commissioner, and her staff, we went back, reviewed a number of other jurisdictions, and pulled and try to look at different information to see what's available, what can we put on our tax bill to give residents more information, make it clearer and a little more concise as far as where the taxes, what the source of the tax is, and exactly how it's getting broken down. And we added on the back page of the tax bill an informational page. Just gives them additional information on the source of the taxes, what different jurisdictions do, what my office does, what our tax assessor's office does, what their role and responsibilities are, and just additional information. So this was an opportunity. We saw this as an opportunity to be able to provide more information to our residents and help further educate them. And again, all this information is also included on our website. This is simply the schedule. Today represents the first public hearing. We'll have a second public hearing this evening at 6:30 and proposed adoption next Tuesday at 9:30, or 9:45 rather. With that, that concludes, and I'm happy to address any questions or comments that the board may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. This property tax statement is really good. It gives our citizens the opportunity to really see what the breakdown is. So thank you all for putting together this type of statement. Does any of the other commissioners have any questions? This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that would like to come forth and speak. Stephanie, you have some people signed up?
They didn't have to pre-register,
Okay,
so they can just come forward.
So do we have anyone wishing to come forward? Please come forward and state your name.
My name is John Blue. I live in Henry County in the Fairhaven neighborhood over off of Elliott Road. And our neighborhood has discussed a little bit about some of the things that have come up, and I'm not representing everybody in the neighborhood, but I do take a representation for some of us. We feel like this millage rate increase is a double dip, because you're moving the market value of our homes up over 20% year on year, and you're collecting the current millage rate on a 20% increase on the market value. If you increase the millage rate by 20%, now you're collecting another 20%. That's the way we see it. So it's a double dip because we pay, excuse me, we're paying the millage rate on assessed value or a market value, and then you get to the assessed value and all that, but it's still a 20% increase. My house, we built a brand new house in 2016, and the fair market value was about $475,000. Today, 7 years later, it's $675,000. So you're increasing our property's value, therefore you're increasing the collection of taxes. With that being said, you know, the budget is increased by $27 million, it looks like, year on year, 22 to 23, which is it was a huge jump in budget. So we're concerned on what is even though the presentation had some, it's hard to read it because it's so small, but had some indication of what's causing the budget increases. But for the most part, we're just kind of curious as to, are we managing a budget or are we just budgeting what we want? People in the county, you know, I think they vote for people to hold these positions to help the taxpayers. We're in a obviously a odd state in this world today, and people aren't looking to get their taxes increased. And I think the voters are all going to vote for people that have ideas to reduce costs, to reduce taxes. And I think that Henry County should be looking at trying to reduce their budget, not on important things. We're not saying cut the fire department or anything like that. We're just saying we have to look at the budget deeper and not just have frivolous spending. And the homeowners are the ones that are, you know, in this particular situation are footing some of the extra taxes, and maybe by double in our opinion, in my opinion. So that's really about all I have to say on that. But I feel like that we should revisit the fact that we're already paying taxes on a higher market value. Why are we going to pay more taxes on a higher millage rate on a higher assessment? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak? Come. No, but no, you don't have to pre-register to speak, but gentleman back there raised his hand, come forward. Y'all just come and get in line for those that want to speak. It's a public hearing, so everyone is afforded the opportunity to speak.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name's Don Dunlap at 192 Ashley Drive in McDonough. One of the things that I didn't think about until just a minute ago when the Commissioner Harris put that slide up was the special service districts. I had wanted to say something about that before. That's amazing. It's so nice to see that we are protecting those public safety budgets. I just think that's really cool, and I want to say that. As far as the millage rate itself goes, I know that we're not changing the millage rate, but that since valuations are increasing, that's why you're having the hearing. We've got a just 9.1% inflation rate. The inflation's the highest it's been in 40 years since I was a kid. To combat that, the Fed has raised interest rates 3 times, right? A quarter point, a half point. This last month, 3/4 of a point, and next week it's almost guaranteed to be 3/4 of a point, maybe a full point. So the cost of everything having to do with interest rates is going to be increasing. That inflation rate, the big 3 components that have gone up are food, energy, and housing. And those are the 3 things that our lowest income citizens are going to be most negatively impacted by. They've got to put a roof over their head. They've got to get back and forth to work. They've got to eat. I work for another government agency that is going to, from all appearances, they're going to raise their effective taxes on the citizens by about 20%, so they can pay me extra money next year. They're giving us all an 8% raise. So I don't have a dog in that particular fight. Yes, costs are going up, but it's not going to negatively impact me like it's going to impact other folks. I understand about the frozen homestead exemption, but if somebody purchases a house, we've reset the clock. If they sell their house and buy something else, if they downsize, whatever, that clock's going to start again at these higher values. So I'm respectfully asking that you guys consider rolling back the millage rate so that we don't have this dramatic increase in our taxes, at least in the short term, and then maybe come back and visit it next year after inflation's gotten tamped down. Thank you.
Next. Sir, come forward. State your name.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Joseph Brown. I just live off of Highway 81. Just going to sort of iterate some of the comments that were already made. I wasn't here early when the meeting first started, so I don't know what originated the proposed increase. That would be always a good start. Why is it necessary to increase? What's driving the increase? Well, first of all, when you decide to propose an increase, you have to consider the citizens and what things that they're already paying for. You know, we pay for house maintenance, right? Different things of that sort. So whenever you increase things, some things may have to give in order to pay this over here. So I would have you consider those different things, other costs that we have to deal with, along with paying an increased property tax. I know there's increased inventory in the city of, in the county of Henry County, right? So you're getting an increased tax there for the increased inventory, and then also along with that, there's an increased property tax. So this is a sort of a double cost on us. Are you getting a double income with the increased inventory and with the increase in tax? So I don't know what your current budget is, what's driving these costs, the increase, but we have to also consider, as was mentioned earlier, our livelihood. We can't always afford to pay additional taxes, right? Because we're paying for other things. Then it becomes a priority. What do I pay first, right? So, and some of us are on a fixed income, right? We don't get annual increases. So when taxes go up or prices go up, we have to manage the money the best way we can because we're not getting an increased cost of living. At least I don't, not on a regularity. So these different things need to be considered when we consider taxing the citizen. We came here and we bought these homes, right? And we know cost sort of goes up from time to time, right? But salary does not. At least in my case, being a retiree, income doesn't go up. But tax and maintenance, those things do go up. So we have to take in consideration when we propose a tax on the citizens. Can the citizens afford these increases? Is it fair to them, along with paying these other costs to survive and live in the county of Henry County? So I just ask the board members and everyone to just consider when you decide to approve or not approve these increases, just consider our livelihood and the things that we have to take care of and pay for on a monthly and daily basis. That's all I have. Thank you for hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come and speak at the public hearing? Anyone else wishing to come and speak? Okay, hearing none. Meeting is adjourned.